any sort of circulation. So velocity, for those of you just tuning in, it just means the basic turning circulation within a system that helps the energy, that helps the updraft, that helps really make this thing an actual tornado. So with that being said, it doesn't look like a whole lot is going on there. It was just a little bit of a funnel cloud that was seen by one of our spotters from the National Weather Service. This goes for the next 15 minutes or so, 20 minutes or so, expiring at 9:45 here. So we're going to look at some wind shear to see if there's anything as far as winds that can kind of help spin this thing up and actually bring it down to the ground here. So a little bit of shear that could potentially help it out, but not looking like too much. This is where we're really watching things, okay? So Pine Log, Big Blackjack Landing, Lanark Village, excuse me, all you need to be going to your safe space within the next 20 minutes. We are going to continue to watch this system. But let's zoom on in here. We're going to zoom to things and see what's really going on and see if there's something that we really need to take a close eye on. So with that being said, a little bit of circulation. This is radar indicated, folks. Nothing of reports of any touchdowns as of right now, but we're just watching this, okay? So there's lots of different activities going on, especially offshore. We've had lots of reports of water spouts out there, and we're getting hit pretty hard across all of the panhandle with these feeder bands. So this was anticipated. This goes still until 9:45. So we're going to zoom on in and see where it's headed so you can get to your safe space if you are in the path. So with that being said, we'll pause this right where it's going and draw out where it's headed so you can kind of see it in its path there. So Pine Log at 9:42, so it's kind of going to make its way into these areas. Curtis Mill at 10:09, Sanborn at 10:13, Sop Choppy at 10:23. So it's kind of slowly making its way into the next county towards the north as it continues on its path there. But as far as circulation, as far as any rotation on this thing, it was there. We did see a little bit of a coupling for a second, but just like the last few systems that have been warned, they've been a little bit of a coupling, and then it just kind of disappears for us. So it's great as far as down, anything touching ground here. We're just kind of playing with things, seeing what's going on. So Ross, do you have any more reports that you can tell me while I mess with this thing? Oh, okay, Ross is out checking on things, so we're just going to continue here. So this is what we're looking at, the shear rate. So shear means just any type of wind shear is essential in change of wind speed and direction with height. So wind shear can causing a rolling motion in the atmosphere. So wind shear is essential to help the tilt and help the storm enhance in rotation. So there's a little bit out there, nothing that's really looking like it's going to help too much, but base velocity, any rotation, this is where it's at. We're going to go ahead and circle this area. This is where there could potentially be a little bit of rotation. As of right now, still just radar indicated. I'm going to move over to the National Weather Service chat to see if there's been any more reports. So again, still we have a spotter out there that did have reports of a funnel cloud in Caribou, Franklin, Florida. So that was just reported at 9:19, about 6 minutes ago. So we saw the rotation there, and the potential is there for a touchdown, but as of right now, we're not seeing any reports of a touchdown. So that's great news. So let's zoom on out for those of you who are just now tuning in for us. Well, we've got a radar indicated tornado warning. That's for Franklin County, moving towards the north to northeast at about 15 miles per hour here. So with that being said, there's a lot of feeder bands out here that are just going to continue to filter on in. So earlier on this morning, most of that instability was offshore. That's where a lot of it lies still. But the thing is, with Francine continuing on its path inland, it's helping lift this warm front, this frontal boundary that's been sitting across our area the past few days that's been limiting the instability. That's now pushing ashore, and that's allowing for some of this some of this rotation and some of these stronger storms to come about for us. So with that being said, we're still watching this thing. No reports of any touchdowns. Still just a spotter there reported a funnel cloud. So we'll zoom back in for those of you just tuning in. Again, we have this tornado warning for Franklin County, mostly for our coastal areas. It is moving towards the north to northeast. And if you are in Big Blackjack Landing, it's just now to the north of Lanark Village, and it's heading towards Curtis Mill. So if you are in those areas, you need to take shelter, go to your safe place. Now, what do I mean by safe place? Well, let me show you here a little bit more of an explainer graphic for those of you who might be new to the area and maybe not used to tornado warnings. Well, this is what I'm talking about. Best place to go. Of course, you want to go there calmly and go there as quickly as possible here. It's going to be an interior room on the lowest level is always a safe option for any home. So that being either a closet, it can be a bathroom, a bathtub, and grab those pillows and blankets as you head in there, grab the water. Potentially even might need to keep your notifications on in case you do lose power, because then we'll continue to give you all of the updates on all platforms. So download that StormTrack 13 app. We're going to continue to give you all of the notifications as we get them in. But again, if you happen to lose power here, turn on your alerts and also grab that weather radio if you have it. We're going to continue to give you those updates on that as well here. But as we continue to track this thing, let's go ahead and take a look at a live view of our traffic cameras here. So we're continuing to monitor things. Just a little bit of a funnel cloud that was reported by one of our spotters from the National Weather Service here. But this is one of our live cameras from I-10 to Funiac Springs, Fountain Highway on Highway 20 there, I-10 Bonifay and I-10 Mariana. So all areas seeing the rainfall. You can see actually the rain droplets on the camera lens there. So it's raining in all areas. Again, lots of feeder bands here that are just continuing to spin things up a little bit for us. So this was anticipated as this band continues to make its way onshore for us. That's going to be that warm front that keeps things pretty active the next few hours. We do have that tornado watch set until 1 p.m. tonight. So for those of you just tuning in, hey, we have a tornado warning set until 9:45, the next 16 minutes. So let's get you back on the radar here, just shuffling through my graphics so we can get you focused on what's going on. So again, 2 feeder bands kind of working their way right in between Port St. Joe, just on both sides, heading towards Bay County, as well as the one that is in Franklin County right now. We do have this tornado warning that is set until 9:45 in the Franklin County area here. Now, we are expecting it to expire likely before it even it's expected to go until 9:45, could potentially be expiring before then because it's broadening, it's weakening. So that is great news on its path towards the north to northeast. Hey, Ross, now that you're in here, could you go ahead and give me any updates that you are seeing from the National Weather Service? What's it looking like on your end?
Yeah, we had a confirmed funnel cloud with that thunderstorm that worked over Carabel. We had a nice little couplet that was showing up there that now has worked inland. Looks like that rotation has broadened as well, but watching the next feeder band off to the west, and this one meaning business, could see a tornado warning for Cape San Blas or even Gulf County here soon as those storms start to work ashore because there's some embedded rotation there. You'll note that band producing a ton more lightning than what we've seen out of the other systems across the area so far today. So what we've got going on here, looking at that band, yeah, if you just want to run the radar for me, Amelia, that's fine. As we zoom in to Cape San Blas there for me, or you can throw hand tracker up and I can grab on that. Either or, it doesn't matter. So going in, you can see the rotation that we do have here. So that's our thunderstorm right there, just on the north side of Lanark Village, Big Blackjack Landing. This is Alligator Point. This is going to be crossing over into Wakulla County here shortly. And at that point in time, we will drop this warning. But you can see the parent thunderstorm here just on the south side of Pine Log. And that's our rotation, right where you've got the hook over County Highway 67, Duval Road, Blackjack Landing. That is where we do see that couplet. And right there, right at the beginning, so if we'll go back, if you want to grab that timeline and actually pause it when the couplet was basically right over Carabel, that'll work too. So if you go on the other side, on the analysis side, just grab the timeline and scroll back to where we were when this was over Carabel, and we can look at exactly when they, just keep going back a little bit further, a little bit further, a little bit further, right there, stop. So right there, that's where we had the couplet, and that is when they gave the warning out because that's what produced the funnel cloud. So this little bit of winds going in opposite direction produced a funnel. So that's what produced a funnel. So as we go forward, zooming it all the way to where we are currently, you'll note that we still have similar types of rotation. So there's a possibility that a funnel cloud is here. And even briefly, we saw that rotation tighten up. That's when we could have seen maybe a funnel working down to the ground. But at the current moment, it is broad. It is weak rotation, but a funnel could be there. Zooming back out so that we can see those storms that are working into Gulf County. Again, this is a tornado warning that does go until 9:45 Central Daylight Time for Franklin County. This is moving off into the north and east, but we do have some embedded rotation in this storm as well. That's going to be working toward Cape San Blas. So zooming in on that rotation over there, you can see that that too is also strong. But right now, what we have is this rotation just on the north side, Pine Log, Blackjack Landing, or Big Blackjack Landing. That's where the rotation is. This will be moving toward Curtis Mills, McClintry, Sanborn, Sopchoppy. Those locations are where we're going to be heading with that overall rotation. So if you're in those locations, you want to be getting into your interior room, lowest level of your home. That means closet, bathroom. Put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. If you are in a mobile home and you were in that warning ahead of that thunderstorm, you got to go somewhere else. A mobile home is not somewhere you want to be in shelter for a tornado. Even weak tornadoes, EF0s, EF1s, disintegrate mobile homes. That's not a safe place to be. So again, a tornado warning for Franklin County. These things have been very quick to spin up, and then these rotations just kind of linger over the same areas. So it's possible we've got a broad rotation happening aloft, and we may be getting little funnels to try to drop out of that. But as this does continue to move forward, 9:42 Pine Log, McClintry, 10:07 Curtis Mills, 10:12 Sanborn at 10:19, and Shophoppy at 10:28. That warning will expire here in about 10 minutes. So overall, lots of heavy rain. The potential for flash flooding still happening. Thankfully, on the backside of that band, the one that's off to the west, we are seeing a weakening trend staying here with this couplet, because you can't see that is starting to try to tighten back up once again. Don't you think that... Aren't you seeing that tighten up once again over there, Amelia?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've been kind of seeing a similar pattern. Typically when these systems hit shore, they're going to hit the updraft and then they just kind of dissipate for us. But this one, it's kind of been doing something different for us. Now it's been broadening and now it's tightening back up, and a little bit of lightning there. We haven't had a whole lot of lightning within these cells for today. So this system does seem like it is tightening up for us. So we're going to keep a close eye on this. We're still in the velocity, still seeing a little bit of rotation for it. So we're going to keep a close eye on this. And as it heads towards Sopchoppy within the next few minutes, that's going to be out of our area. But we're going to continue to give you all of the updates as we get them in. Let's go ahead and give you an overall view of what's happening on the radar. So we're still seeing these two feeder bands here, one just to the eastern side of, western side of Port St. Joe, and the other one here just making its way into Franklin County for us. So we've been talking about these feeder bands and how most of that instability has been held offshore for the morning hours. Well, now that instability has been pushing inland because of Francine. This all is a result of Francine, okay? We've been talking about how those feeder bands could have been sneaky and bringing us some active circulation. Well, that's exactly what we're saying. They kind of hit the base of land, and they've been really broadening for us. So with that being said, you know, Ross mentioned it here. They've been rather quickly with the spin up, and then they just kind of dissipate for us. So with this being said, we're still closely watching this one here, as it does look like it's trying to get its act together, and it's not doing a great job here. Let's go to base velocity.
Yeah, it tightened up for like half a second, and now it's broadened right back out. So
yeah, and that's the
like
trend, right?
Reorganizing has now turned back into nothing.
Nothing, exactly.
Yeah.
So we see it for a second, and we talk about it, and then that's how quickly these things come and go, folks, because, yeah, as soon as we mention it, then it broadens and it lifts right out. So that's kind of what we're seeing with that every little system that's been warned for today. With that being said, let's take a look at the shear, see if there's anything that could catch this and maybe help it out a little bit. There's some shear there, but nothing crazy. So we're going to go back to the start of things and just give you guys a broad look at what's going on here. So for those folks who are just tuning in, we do have a tornado warning for Franklin County that goes until 9:45 here, so the next 9 minutes or so. What does that mean for all of the areas in its path? Well, that just means some very gusting winds and torrential downpours, especially closer towards the coastline. We've been seeing flash flood warnings, so likely within this cell going to be seeing that same situation situation. It is just north of Carabel right now, looking like it's heading towards Sop Choppy. So let's draw its path and see the next areas in its path here. So Pine Log at 9:51, you need to be getting into your safe space. That's going to be in the next 20 minutes. This likely is going to be broadening by then. It's already looking like it's doing so as of right now. So this potentially could expire before even the next 10 minutes are up. Curtis Mill, you're at 10:19, Sanborn at 10:26, Sop Choppy at 10:35. So again, the wind speeds have been rather gusty for today, especially within these cells. So Ross, I know you're over on the green screen. What are you looking at?
Yeah, looking at the rotation with this thunderstorm, still kind of broad, and we could have seen maybe a funnel drop to the ground, maybe a brief tornado right around Pine Log a few minutes ago, but still starting to see this broaden back out. If you want to throw hand tracker up for me here so that I can move around a little bit and zoom around. But overall, again, Pine Log, this rotation is right over the top of you. We could be seeing maybe some brief funnels or brief tornadoes working down to the ground. You want to pull that up for me?
Yeah.
Grab the hand tracker there and just throw that on so I can move this around.
Yeah, absolutely. Working on that for you. 1 second, Ross.
So, again, tornado warning till 9:45 for Franklin County. This is north of Carabel around the Pine Log area. Should be moving into Wakulla County here shortly. The rotation's been hanging around that Pine Log area. We've seen it tighten up at times. But the reason I really want to jump on here and talk about it is not actually for this rotation where we could see some brief, weak tornadoes out of that rotation because it certainly is there. But actually, it is the rotation that is headed toward Cape Sandblast that I want to draw attention to as well, because that is quite impressive here, and lots of lightning out of that storm as well. Even note that our shear marker is popping up on that too. So if you're out on the north end of Cape Sandblast, you want to be seeking shelter now. I'm not sure if they've put a warning on this. Yeah, they just did. So tornado warning now for Cape Sandblast. I'm glad they did that because that looks like a powerful waterspout that's headed toward Cape Sandblast. So Cabin Road, State Highway 30E, there's not a whole lot out here, but this is the new cut basically from Hurricane Michael. That's right where that is. So that's the separation between the state park and then further off on the south side, so south and central portions of Cape Sandblast. But waterspout getting ready to move right over that new pass there where you're going into the state park, right where that cut is. That is where the waterspout probably is going to pass over and then potentially into the Port St. Joe area, eventually that direction as well. So if this does continue on the same path, it will eventually end up in Port St. Joe. So Cape Sandblast, you need to be in shelter now, lowest level, most interior room of your home. Now, most of the buildings out there are elevated. They are on structures. They are up. So that means interior room, because obviously you can't go down because you are elevated. So interior room, that means many walls between you and the outside as possible. The reason we say that is because a tornado is going to pick up debris. It's going to throw debris, and you don't want to be on an exterior wall. If that debris happens to be on the wall that you're sitting on, not great. So as many walls between you as possible. If that can be a bathroom where you have plumbing in the walls to help to strengthen up those walls a little bit, that's even better. Not ideal to be in an elevated structure, but I know most of the structures out on Cape Sandblast are elevated. If that happens to be you, then you need to be in an interior room because there is a likely waterspout that's getting ready to cross Cape Sandblast. This would work toward Port St. Joe as well. So if you are in Port St. Joe, you need to be watching this very, very closely as that is moving in your direction. A likely waterspout working across Cape Sandblast here in the next few minutes, if not right near shore. So shear marking showing up quite nicely for us here, highlighting a good indication that this is in fact a waterspout that's getting ready to work in, and you're not going to see it. So if you're standing out there and you're looking on the beach, or you're in Port St. Joe and you're looking out of the water, you're not going to see this. This is completely embedded in rain. This is downpouring rain. You're not going to see that waterspout. It is going to be impossible to view. It's just going to look like a wall of water, and then the wind's going to come out of nowhere. So waterspout likely getting ready to cross Cape Sandblast, working toward Port St. Joe as well. If we time this out, do you know the forward motion on that? I don't know if I have. Yeah, I do have a skit. I'll just grab the skit here. and then we can time this out. So there we go. Highland View at 10 a.m., Oak Grove at 10 a.m., Port St. Joe at 10 a.m., Milltown 10:02, Ward Ridge at 10:02, and Niles at 10:03. So that is after it crosses the Cape and enters into the Port St. Joe area. This is moving east-northeast at 33 miles an hour. You'll note that we have another shear marker. There's another likely waterspout off to the south of even the waterspout we just saw. So two waterspouts here headed toward Cape San Blas. One's going to pass on the north side. The other one is headed toward the Indian Pass, so on the south side of Cape San Blas toward the Stump Hole. So that's the Stump Hole Road right there, and that is where the waterspout is. So if it follows that east-northeast motion, this is going to be coming right to that portion of Cape San Blas as well, eventually up on the north side of Indian Pass too. So two waterspouts offshore. Those are completely embedded in rain. The hope here is the same thing that has been happening today is as this gets closer to shore, we start to see the instability lessen and these broaden and weaken. Hopefully that's what happens here as well, because these are certainly the most significant signatures we've had so far today when it comes to the severe weather potential, and the potential for this to be producing a tornado looks likely. So tornado warning, that tornado warning goes until 10:15 Central Daylight Time. We still do have a tornado warning for Franklin County. That again goes until 10:45, so that's another 2 minutes from now. I'm willing to bet they let that one expire, but we can check on that one real quick, and then we'll bounce back over here to see if we can see that one once again, see if this one's tightened up at all. But this is north of Carabel. It was over the Pine Log area. This should be moving towards Sopchoppy. Yeah, it looks like that rotation has continued to broaden, so note the area of rotation here, nice and broad, not seeing it as tight anymore, not getting that couplet. So this has broadened out. Willing to bet they're going to let that expire and cancel here in the next few minutes. However, we do have a tornado warning now for two waterspouts that are likely going to be moving across Cape San Blas here very, very quickly. So timing out the other one, we'll put a skit on this one. That would be Indian Pass 10:07, Oak Grove 10:10, Ward Ridge 10:10, Niles 10:11, and Port St. Joe at 10:11 as well. So Port St. Joe in line makes sense because these two waterspouts not too far apart from each other. Overall, moving in that direction. That is that main feeder band we've been concerned about over the last couple of days that'll be working on through. And you can see that is the most intense weather that we have had as of today already. So zooming back in here and looking at the base velocities, once again, two very distinct waterspouts just offshore of Cape San Blas working toward the Cape and then eventually over toward Port St. Joe, Niles, Indian Pass as well. Maybe eventually down the road toward Apalachicola if these do hold together. But the hope here is that these start to dissipate as they work toward the shoreline. But right now, you need to be in your shelter. If you're anywhere out on Cape San Blas, you got to be in your shelter. That's interior room, lowest level of your home, most walls between you and the outside as possible. If it can be a bathroom, that's even better. If you're going to the bathroom, take with you blankets, pillows, cover something to cover yourself up. You want closed-toe shoes, boots, something like that as well. If you're hit by a tornado and you have to walk out on debris, you don't want to be doing it in flip-flops and sandals or no shoes. Put shoes on, get to a safe spot if you're out in Cape San Blas. Same thing in Port St. Joe. Watching these, if this works across the peninsula and it works into the bay here and then gets into or starts doing that, then you too need to be in your shelter. Just a matter of minutes before you should be getting in your shelter in Port St. Joe. Same thing on the south end of Cape San Blas here. If you're along the area referred to as the Stump Hole or State Highway 30E here, that is the whole road that goes throughout Cape San Blas. If you're out here on the south side, the south-facing shoreline of Gulf County, you need to be in shelter as well. Likely waterspout coming across Cape San Blas on the south side as well. So two waterspouts within minutes are getting ready to cross the Cape and move into Gulf County. So if you are in those locations, you've got to be in shelter now. It is likely that that one possibly could be moving over the Cape right now. You're not going to be able to see these. These are completely embedded in rain. And talk about a water spout. Yeah, that one, even whenever you see a little eye showing up underneath that rotation, that's not good on the radar, because that's usually a good indication that there's a tornado there. And that is thankfully still offshore, but will be moving toward the Cape here in the coming minutes. You can see that is already heavily raining on the north end of Cape San Blas, approaching the coastline as well. Looking across the rest of the area, they did allow that one. Yeah, they allowed that one to expire. So this is the only warning in the area at the moment. Not only are we talking about prolific lightning, talking about very heavy rain across this area as well. So Mexico Beach to Port St. Joe, if you're driving in that location, you're going to be dealing with ponding on the roadway for sure. Across the rest of the area, not looking too bad. And even though we do have the tornado watch until 1 o'clock, these storms look to be far less or far more stable than the instability that we have in this main convection and this main line that is now progressing into Gulf County. Again, 2 shear markers, 2 likely waterspouts that are getting ready to cross the Cape right now here in the coming moments. So you need to be in shelter. That is lowest level of your home, most interior room, either a closet or a bathroom. The reason we say bathroom is because plumbing usually helps strengthen those walls. It's possible that could help to keep those walls up if a tornado does work across your location. Seeing the shear marker drop off of the top one, that is a good news. So hopefully that means that we saw that rotation weaken. So let's go back over to our velocities here and see if we've done that. Yeah, it does look like that's happened. So I think there's still probably a water spout here, but it has broadened somewhat. Definitely still a water spout on the south side getting ready to cross. I think it's likely you're probably talking about a couple of water spouts out there at this point off of that storm, and then hopefully these do dissipate. But 2 water spouts, looks like there's one there and one there getting ready to cross the Cape here shortly. But lots of lightning and certainly very, very heavy rain. Probably gusty winds as well. If we pixel query these, we'll probably see some pretty strong wind gusts as well. 50, 60 miles per hour, certainly possible. Even if you don't see a tornado, we could be talking about wind gusts 60 miles per hour working across the Cape. So that itself could do some damage, is just the wind gust alone with this strong thunderstorm. And this certainly is the strongest storm we have seen so far today. So again, this is on the south side of Mexico Beach. If you're in St. Joe Beach, this is to the south of you. If you're in Port St. Joe, certainly want to keep an eye on this. Indian Pass, same thing. If not already getting into shelter, you can always get out if you need to. Again, if you're on Cape San Blas, you should be in shelter. We've got 2 water spouts out there, one about 3/4 of the way up on the north side of the Cape, and then another one on the south side of the Cape, just on the north side of the Stump Hole area right there on the south side of Cape San Blas. So that's where the strongest signature is, but there are 2 couplets still offshore, just off to the west, getting ready to move into the Cape. So that is a tornado warning. Again, that goes until 10:45 Central Daylight Time. These storms are moving toward Indian Pass, 11-mile Niles, and Port St. Joe, with lots of lightning and heavy rain as well. And again, this is a dangerous thunderstorm, probably, if not, producing a waterspout currently getting ready to move across the Cape. So you are definitely under the threat of being impacted by a tornado if you are out on Cape San Blas. You need to be in shelter. You need to be taking this threat very, very seriously. Thankfully, we are seeing the threat lessen on the backside of that. We are watching these 2 bands, and we're having to deal with all of this activity. And these are the main feeder bands that are associated with Francine, which is now a tropical depression in Mississippi. So that is working away from us, but this band's still working on through. So tornado warning, 10:45 Cape San Blas. Looks likely that we've got 2 waterspouts out there. The potential for these waterspouts to move across and onto land, making them tornadoes is very possible as they are approaching shore. Again, two spouts right there showing up quite nicely here for us to see that we do have that rotation that could potentially be working onshore. And they changed that to 10:45. Did I mess something up earlier?
Yeah, it's actually 10:15 now that they're expiring that now, Ross.
So did I say that wrong, or was that?
Yeah, you did. You were saying 10:45. It's actually 10:15.
My bad. It's actually 10:15. We do still have those two areas of rotation out there. The one on the north side of the Cape does look like it is weakening. The one on the south side of the Cape still holding strong. So hopefully these are dissipating as they are starting to feel the force of friction ahead. So that's what happens is out over water, there is no friction force. So these things can kind of maintain and sustain themselves. As they get closer to land, they start to feel that force of the land, of the friction, and it disrupts the overall circulation, the inflow that's sustaining it. It makes it a little bit harder, and if it's not coming from the parent thunderstorm or it's not a strong circulation, then the land is typically enough to start to get these things to dissipate. Even capes, even just beaches can be enough to get these things to start to dissipate. So looks like that's what happened on the north side. The south side still looks like there is a water spout there getting ready to move across. So if you are in Port St. Joe, it looks like the northernly one has at least diminished somewhat, but the one on the south end also does appear to be holding on as it is approaching Cape San Blas. So again, you're not going to see this. This is completely shrouded in rain. It is absolutely pouring out there across the Cape and across much of Gulf County as well. Very heavy rainfall. We've seen places picking up greater than 6-7 inches of rain today, which is why we have a flash flood warning in effect for portions of Franklin, Gulf, and Liberty County, as well as portions of Walton County. So the two areas you see purple on the map are the two areas we do have that flash flood warning in place. The rest of the area has picked up about 1 to 3 inches of rain, especially along the coast. We've picked up quite a bit of rain. But tornado warning, again, 10:15 is when this is set to expire. Water spout possible moving ashore or moving across the Cape here in the coming minutes. That's when we could be talking about seeing that at this moment in time. Just trying to get back over to our shear rate here and look at that product for you. We'll go back to reflectivity. We still have that marker a little bit closer this time. So let's zoom back in here. Unfortunately, not seeing that dissipate as much as I would have wanted. Nope, still looks pretty intact there. So looks like a water spout is moving onshore now on the south side of Cape San Blas. So this is State Highway 30E. This is going to follow County Road 30A, go out toward Indian Pass. So if you are in that area, lowest level of your home, most interior room, that is a closet or a bathroom. I know most of the structures out here are elevated, so that's going to be an interior room on that first floor. Whatever that first floor may be, that's where you want to be. It's probably going to be a bathroom in the middle of that home. That's where you need to be in the shelter out on the Cape, and especially as you work closer to Gulf County, back across toward Indian Pass as well. Let's time this out here and show you where things could be going as we do go forward. So Indian Pass, you got 1019. I'm going to get rid of the tornado watch there. Let's get the skit here from right over the top of the tornado itself. So there you go. Indian Pass 1019, Niles at 1023, and that tornado warning again goes until 1015. Looks like it is still off of the Cape right now, but we'll be passing through the Cape or across the Cape here very, very shortly on the south end. Water spout likely moving across Cape San Blas in the coming moments. What are you seeing over there, Amelia?
Yeah, we're seeing some high cloud cover as well, Ross. And as far as the National Weather Service goes, there is even a third one developing further west of Cape San Blas, so that tornado warning in effect for St. Joe Peninsula, including Cape San Blas and Stump Hole. So likely, potentially even another one circulating out there in the Gulf, potentially another water spout is what we're looking at. So with that being said, Ross, that first one up north, that has dissipated, that has weakened, especially once it made its way towards land. It kind of lifted and just disappeared for us. So that being said, that that first water spout that we were watching heading towards St. Joe, it's still intact, as Ross was saying, and there's no reports of anything further on the National Weather Service chat other than we're closely watching the circulation in Franklin as well. So don't forget, folks, we are watching two separate feeder bands here, not only the one that just produced that tornado warning that's going over St. Joe right now, making landfall. As of right now, no reports of any touchdowns. This is still radar indicated as far as it comes closer towards land, especially the one closer towards Franklin there. But this is something we're still watching. So this just came in. The northern circulation has weakened significantly on approach. That's what we were just talking about to the northern peninsula. But the southern circulation still holding together, folks. So it's making land right now, and it is approaching the Cape there. So still a water spout. That was what we were watching out for. And it's moving towards St. Joe, towards the north to northeast, mostly to the coastal areas. Now, all of these warnings that we've been seeing, they've kind of been lifting and really just weakening as they've made their way to shore. But this one's still looking like it's holding on for us, Ross, and it does expire at about 10:15 here on its path towards the northeast. So we still have about another 15 minutes with this. Now, Ross has been mentioning, as it continues with this warning, you need to go into your interior area because we're in Florida. We don't have a lot of basements. That means you need to go to a closet, maybe a bathroom, a bathtub. Bring your blankets with you to cover yourselves up. You need to get there quickly because this is a quick moving system, and we have had reports up to 50, even 60 mile per hour winds within this cell here. So lots of gusting winds, heavy downpours like Ross was mentioning. You're not even going to be able to see this water spout coming on shore here. Just a lot of torrential downpours, which is why we do have that flash flood warning, especially closer towards Apalachicola there in Franklin County. But again, we're continuing to watch the system make its way there. It's looking like it's going to be moving about 15 miles per hour towards the northeast. So we'll continue watching this thing. Ross, you want to take a look at its path and where it's going next?
Yeah, it looks like it's getting ready to rotate onshore as we speak. So zooming in right here to it, and you can see right where that shear marker is showing up. That is the couplet itself. So where the red and the blue are showing up. And if you've been watching us a lot this morning, you've probably seen us pixel querying the radar data and showing wind speeds. This will be the highest wind speeds that we've pixel queried today, 74 or 71 and 11. So showing an 82 gate to gate, or 82 mile per hour winds rotating in the atmosphere. So it is likely a water spout is getting ready to cross over the south end of Cape San Blas toward the Stump Hole area. This will be moving on the north side of Indian Pass, on the south side of Port St. Joe. This should stay just relatively on the north side of the south side of the connector here. So State Highway 30E looks like that road actually has like rotated up just a little bit. So going back closer up into the Cape area and then working across. I believe Black's Island is out here as well. So if you happen to be vacationing, if you're lucky enough to be out there vacationing on that and you're watching us, you got to be in shelter also, as this is going to be crossing right over that as well, going toward again, 30A in the direction on the south side of Port St. Joe. So if you're between Port St. Joe and Indian Pass on the road that goes out to Cape San Blas, you got to be in your shelter. That's County Road 30A. I know there's not a lot of homes through here, but there is housing and there is population through here. So from Indian Pass back over to the south side of Port St. Joe, you need to be in your shelter. If you're on Cape San Blas and you're near the Stump Hole area, a rotation's over the top of you right now. You should already be in shelter because that is happening at the current moment. If you are in Indian Pass, this is moving in your direction. You still have time. If you're on Second Road, Third Road, if you're out here in Higgins Road, County Road 30A on the south side of Port St. Joe, you still have time. Get to shelter, lowest level, interior room of your home. That's usually a closet or a bathroom. Take with you blankets, take with you closed-toe shoes, take with you your cell phone, flashlight, a helmet. All of those things can be useful when a tornado is crossing over or crossing through. If you have to manage working through debris, that is also useful to be able to step out and work through that. So tornado warning again, just for Cape San Blas, actually doesn't include the rest of Gulf County, but we now have it right over Cape San Blas at the moment. That is where that rotation is. So it's likely waterspout transitioning to tornado at the moment, possibly transitioning back to waterspout as this works back over water, potentially back to a tornado as this gets back on land. So yeah, and they just went ahead and warned the rest of Gulf County as well. So Gulf County now under a tornado warning until 10:30 Central Time. So there's our 10:30 that I was talking about. I was just foreshadowing what we already had. But it looks like there's only one area of rotation now. That top rotation has dropped. It's right there. That's where that top rotation was. But still significant rotation on the south side of Cape San Blas, right over the stump hole area, picking up that shear marker here. The only locations it's really picking up is Indian Pass at 1017. Again, south of Port St. Joe, between Indian Pass and Port St. Joe, between the connector road from Cape San Blas and Port St. Joe, you got to be in your shelter. That's the Niles area. That's the Indian Pass area. That is where we are talking about rotation moving across. We likely have a waterspout or tornado, if you will, working across Cape San Blas here. As we go to our CC, the good thing is not seeing any kind of debris drop out, but that would make sense because this is probably just mostly picking up water as opposed to any kind of housing debris. So hopefully we don't see a dropout, because if we do, that means it probably hit a home out on the Cape. So hopefully that means we're not looking at a tornado on the ground, but certainly the possibility of it, because this is strong rotation that's working right over the Cape, getting ready to head into south central portions of Gulf County, including Indian Pass. So Port St. Joe, Indian Pass, and now I believe 11 Mile and going over toward Apalachicola is under that warning as well. That goes until 10:30. So tornado working across Cape San Blas, getting ready to work on just the north side of Indian Pass here toward Odina and on the south side of Niles. So that's County Road 30A. That's County Road 30A here on the south side of Port St. Joe. If you're in Higgins Road, you need to be seeking shelter. State Highway 30, you need to be seeking shelter. Second Road, Ponderosa Pine Drive, you need to be seeking shelter. Indian Pass, need to be seeking shelter. Again, County Road 30A going out toward Cape San Blas, need to be seeking shelter. I would even say the 38 going out toward East Point and Apalachicola also should be seeking shelter in Gulf County as once you cross over into the Franklin County side. Not quite to you yet, but significant rotation crossing the Cape right now. The good news is not seeing any kind of debris showing up, at least not yet. Shear rate still quite significant, as well as our base velocity, our shear marker showing up here very nicely for us, pointing out that we do have that tornado warning and where that tornado or where that rotation directly is. So you can see that directly over Cape San Blas at this point in time. It's going to continue to move. If it follows along that skit, should move basically just to the south of Port St. Joe and then out into interior Gulf County. So that would be the south side of White City as well. So Port St. Joe, Highland View, going back over to Mexico Beach, St. Joe Beach, actually seeing a little bit of rotation there on St. Joe Beach just offshore, but not nearly the significant rotation showing up that is now working into or back over the water before working back into Gulf County. So overall, that's what we've got going on. And got any latest information out there on the updated warning for me, Amelia?
Yeah, well, luckily we do not have any reports of hail. And Ross, I was just checking the Florida map here to see if any power outages. Luckily, we are all good as far as that, especially with the wind gusts upwards of 70 miles per hour within this cell. So that's going to be the extreme things here. It's going to not only be be the wind gusts, but as well as the torrential downpours. I think that's going to be the biggest threat here as this continues on land. So with that, they are extending the tornado warning further across southern Gulf County. This is into far western Franklin County as well here. So that's the latest updates from the National Weather Service. We're going to continue to monitor this. But again, as of right now, no hail reports, which is great because we have been seeing some significant hail within these other few cells. But the biggest story for right now continues to be this as it makes its way onshore here, not looking like it's going to be lifting or weakening anytime soon. That's what's been happening with our last few cells here. It's just going to continue to drive the coastline and head towards the north to northeast, closer towards Port St. Joe. So with that being said, we did have a few water spouts out there. They kind of formed into one, and now we're continuing to see that circulation. And as of right now, doesn't look like there's any reports of any weakening within the system, but that typically happens, especially when it goes over land. It kind of shreds it apart rather quickly, is what we have been seeing within these past few warnings. You know, they spin up and then rather quickly disappear for us. So hopefully that's the same situation as it makes its way further into land. But if you are in the path of this storm here, closer towards Port St. Joe as it makes its way inland towards the north to northeast, you need to be taking shelter right now, especially, again, wind gusts upwards of 70 miles per hour within this system. So that could bring down tree limbs, could be bringing power outages. So you need to go to your safe place as soon as you can and bring with you pillows, blankets, anything to protect your head, your neck, and go into those inner areas such as your bathroom, your bathtub, and even your closet there. So this is continuing to make its way. Right now we're seeing these wind reports, 35 miles on the northern side, 50 miles per hour just on the northern side of this rotation, and then right ahead of it, around 62 mile per hour wind gusts is the strongest wind field we are seeing as of right now. Before it touches land, it's close, folks, so it is coming our way. And as of right now, no reports of any weakening, no signs of weakening as it just continues with this rotation. Hey, Ross, can you show me the velocity here? We're going to take a look at the rotation and see how this thing is working on it. All right, so the rotation is still very well organized within this water spout. Again, you really can't see the water spout if you're looking outside. I don't recommend you do so, but we're getting covered with just torrential downpours within this system, this small cell here, and it's very well organized, as I mentioned. So we're taking a look at the shear rate. That's going to be the winds that are horizontal that could help the spin up, that help the updraft, and the overall energy within this. And, you know, the shear is there. So this isn't looking like it's going to weaken within the next few minutes. And this tornado warning, again, it's for Gulf and where else here? Franklin County, Franklin and Gulf. It's heading towards the northeast, and it does expire within the next 22 minutes here. It's still offshore as of right now, looking like it's nearing land within the next minute or so. So it's moving rather quickly. But again, biggest threats right now is continuing to be the gusting winds and torrential downpours. I think that's the biggest threat as of right now. Still no reports of any power outages and no hail. So great news there. But we're continuing to watch this thing. These are the feeder bands, folks. We've been talking about it all morning long. There's 2 feeder bands as of right now. That's why it's from Gulf County all the way to Franklin County, mostly for our coastal areas. It's where the water spouts start off offshore, and really majority of them have been lifting and weakening as they come ashore, but this one is still holding on for us. That rotation is there, and it's not looking to weaken as it's closing in on land there. So with that, Ross, you want to take a look at where it's heading next and where the people need to be prepared. Again, this is moving rather quickly, folks, so you need to get to your safe space right now if you are in the path of the storm.
Yeah, the couplet currently sitting directly over the stump hole area. So that's that road. That's the bend that goes out to Cape San Blas, and they call that the stump hole because there used to be a stump there. You get it. The rotation directly over that's moving back into water and then back toward land. This is going to be on the south side of Gulf County, on the west side of Indian Pass, where we are seeing wind speeds maybe 50, 60 miles per hour. So even if you aren't directly impacted by the rotation itself, you could get wind gusts that are enveloped in the rotation overall. And this is significant rotation. Is the most significant we've had today. Has kind of worked the coastline, staying right on the edge here. So if this is to continue forward, I would say Indian Pass would be next. This isn't really moving off to the east-northeast as suggested by the skits here, but given the timing on the skits, Oak Grove 1022, Niles 1023, Ward Ridge 1023, Port St. Joe 1025, Milltown 1027, Odina, I think that's how you say that, at 1028, and White City at 1037. So you can see that this isn't really moving a whole lot as far as the rotation goes, basically hanging out right there on the south edge of Cape San Blas. That's where the tornado warning is. You see the new shear marker kind of rotating around. So once again, just working the edge of the coast here, which is why I said Indian Pass would be next as opposed to that east-northeast movement. So seeing that rotate around and where we're getting that next bit of rotation to really ramp up. So where we're seeing that rotation most significant on the south side of Cape San Blas, right around the stump hole area. This is moving off to the northeast, at least by our modeling, suggesting about 32 miles an hour, but it's not moving that fast. This rotation basically hanging out in the same areas. You're not going to see this if you go out there and you try to look at where this rotation is. You're not going to see it. It is completely bedded in some very heavy rain. This is downpouring rain. That rotation just on the south side of Cape San Blas there, working toward Indian Pass. So if you are out there on the connector road, the east-west-south road of Cape San Blas, you've got to still be in your shelter. That's where the rotation is at the moment. This is moving off to the east and northeast. So Indian Pass, if you're anywhere along that south-facing shoreline of Gulf County, you got to be in your shelter. That is County Road 30A that goes out toward Apalachicola. We mentioned that a minute ago. But if you come down here on County Road 30B, you should be in shelter as well. I think that said Appalachie Drive, you should be in shelter. Redbird Lane, you should be in shelter. If you're out here on the little strip of Indian Pass, you got to be in shelter. If you're around the Indian Pass area, you should be in shelter. What is shelter? Most interior room, lowest level of your home, either a closet or a bathroom. Put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. If you're in a mobile home and you're ahead of this, I don't think there's a ton of mobile homes in this area, but if you are in a mobile home and you're ahead of this, you got to find shelter somewhere else. Got to find shelter somewhere else. It's not a place to seek shelter. A mobile home is not a place to be during a tornado. Again, this rotation just on the south side. We kind of saw this work right along the edge of the Cape and now on the south side of that. So maybe we won't get this to work onshore, but certainly we're the strongest rotation now just on the south side of Cape San Blas here, just on the south side of Gulf County, moving toward Indian Pass. So if this could have potentially just kind of dragged across Cape San Blas there, and now we've got another waterspout developing under that same bigger, broader rotation happening just on the south side there. So this could be working the coastal areas or potentially even working the coastline there right along County Road 30A on the east-west portion of County Road 30A. So that would be the Indian Pass area. You're running out of time. That storm will be right over the top of you here very, very shortly. The National Weather Service, I'm betting, has expired that warning.
Yes.
I think this warning has continued, right?
Yes, exactly.
So this warning has expired. So if you're out on Cape San Blas, you are good. With exception to the south side of Cape San Blas, that rotation's still basically right over the top of you, but this is moving into interior Gulf County as opposed to the Cape itself. So Cape San Blas, this warning has been allowed to expire. We do still have this warning that does go until 10:30, and that is for this significant rotation that is just offshore. I mean, just offshore of Indian Pass, and significant rotation at that. If we pixel query the winds here, these are elevated because as you get further away from the radar, you're going up in height. So these are elevated. They're not actually at the surface, but you get the idea. We could be talking about gate-to-gate shear somewhere close to 100 miles per hour. So this is likely a waterspout offshore, just offshore, that could be working onshore here pretty quickly. So keep that in mind if you are looking at this going, it's probably nothing. It might be nothing, but it probably isn't. Indian Pass at 10:19, Niles at 10:29. Again, same areas, 11 Mile, 10:32, Tifton at 10:41. That would be if this held together way down the road. I don't think that's going to be the case. But what we're looking at here, again, strong rotation, working toward Indian Pass into Gulf County. Heavy rain, you're not going to be able to see this. Lowest level of your home, most interior room, closet, or bathroom. Take with you Storm Track 13 app. If you don't have that, you can can pull out your phone. If you got a camera phone, you can point it at the QR code there. It'll take you right to a place that you can download that app, and then you can watch us from your safe place from the app. You won't have to be at the TV. You won't have to turn the TV up. You can certainly do that. I would suggest it, but not necessary. If you have the Storm Track 13 app, you can just watch us there as well. Indian Pass, again, this is where that rotation is, and much like what we've seen today, we get these rotations and then they just kind of hang out in the same area for a little while, and hopefully that means that this will dissipate as well, or potentially just stay offshore. Maybe we can just drag the coastline here and keep this offshore, but this is moving onshore, or at least it appears to be moving onshore based off of what we have. This started out on the north side of Cape San Blas, kind of worked all the way around, maybe cut the corner there, and now just on the south side of Indian Pass here where we're getting the strongest rotation at the moment. So that is directly over Indian Pass now. So all of these areas we were just talking about where you need to be in your shelter, that rotation is now over the top of you. So County 30 Road or County Road 30A right over Indian Pass, that is where that rotation is strongest now. So you should be in your shelter, as that is where the potential for a waterspout or tornado is at the moment. Eventually 11 Mile, Odina, or possibly even Tilton down the road, if this does hold together, that would be the direction that this has been moving, more off to the east than off to the north and east. So going back to reflectivity here, let's put this in motion for you here so you can see what's happened over the last 30 minutes or so. Seems like we've been on the air for the last hour with plenty of thunderstorm action working into the coastline from that main feeder band, and you can follow those shear markers right along with where the waterspouts work toward the Cape, now possibly worked across the Cape, and potentially working into Gulf County now on the south side of Indian Pass. So in your shelter there, as that is moving inland potentially, waterspout turned tornado from this main feeder band working right on the Indian Pass area to 11 Mile. As far as I am aware, I'm going to pause this for you here, pull up our local storm reports. Not seeing any reports here, at least not ingested just yet. We have had several reports of waterspouts. That's what those exclamation points are there. Back across Walton County, we had a report of a funnel cloud right over Carabel as well, and then wind gusts upwards 40, 50 miles per hour out in St. George Island as well. But basically just this one storm left at this point in time. We do still have the other feeder band, but that's starting to move out of the area. This feeder band kind of starting to join forces, and the rest of the area looking pretty mundane overall, seeing weaker cells developing on the next banding trying to come in to replace our main banding here. But overall, that does seem to be the biggest concern. So if you're up in Jackson County, Holmes County, you probably just got to enjoy some rain. If you're along the coastline, that's where we're dealing with the threat of severe weather, and certainly the possibility of a tornado working onshore is a real possibility at the moment, as we do have strong rotation right over Indian Pass at the moment. That is County Road 30A. That is on the south side of Gulf County, the east-west road that works toward 11 Mile from Indian Pass to 11 Mile out to Apalachicola as well. That is the 30A we are talking about in Gulf County, right over Indian Pass. That's where that rotation is. This will be working more or less the county border as opposed to the skit that you see there. In fact, we're just going to turn that skid off because that hadn't been all that useful. So this is going to be moving off in that direction. Let's just go ahead and put that into the queue here so you can see what we're talking about. So that's what's ahead of this. If it holds together, this is the direction that it is moving in. We just got that new update here. So seeing that rotation now directly over Indian Pass. If this is a tornado, we'll see a CC dropout. Don't see that yet. The next scan would be the scan that we would see something showing up here. Let's check the Tallahassee radar too, because maybe that's just it. Tallahassee radar also showing the shear skit as well, so that's highlighting. And the Tallahassee radar does have a CC dropout. I wonder if that is real or if that's just an artifact on the radar. Might be an artifact. That doesn't look like a circle, so potentially not. But overall, you can see the rotation still is there, and there is definitely a potential tornado right over Indian Pass. This will be moving toward 11 Mile, toward 9 Mile, toward Odina and Tilton. That would be the general direction that this rotation is headed as we go in the coming minutes and coming hour. We'll likely see that continue. So hopefully this does start to dissipate, but right now strong rotation directly over Indian Pass at 10:20. This warning does go until 10:30, I believe. Yep, warning goes until 10:30 and is moving, if it held together, would be moving into Franklin County. It looks like the last update here may have actually seen that weekend just a touch. Maybe not. Maybe not. No, it still looks...
The National Weather Service, Ross here, the tornado warning circulation is near Indian Pass like you're talking about. It's moving east and will be grazing the north shore of St. Vincent Sound over the next 15 minutes or so. If it does hold together, as you were saying, because we have been seeing these warnings just kind of lift as they make their way to shore and just dissipate for us. So that could be the case with this, but as of right now, we're still holding that rotation. And if it does hold together, it could be a close call for Apalachicola down the line. That's where it's going to be headed. That's the most recent update from the National Weather Service. So has not shown any signs of weakening as of yet, as it just kind of rotates around the coastline there, but it is going to be moving onshore and looking like right over Indian Pass and moving east within the next few minutes. So if it does hold together, this will be the only one that really has, and it'll be the most one that's the most significant one we've seen so far this morning. So Apalachicola down the line could be the next concern for you guys.
Yeah, overall, looking at the shear rate here, right over Indian Pass again, tornado warning that does go until 10:30 and has significant rotation, what she was saying, the St. Vincent Sound, which is here. So this is St. Vincent Island. That's Indian Pass there, and that's where this rotation is headed. So this could be just on the north side of the St. Vincent Island into the Sound, working just on the south side of the 11-mile area overall. So that is a possibility as well. So going back here over to our home view, if we will, and actually my clicker died. So we're going to change clickers here and do that because I don't know where the other clicker is. I was wondering why I couldn't move the screen around, and now you know, because the clicker is dead. Equipment failures, gotta love it. Tornado warning right over Indian Pass, moving toward 11 Mile and 9 Mile. Again, this is rotation just now on the south side of Indian Pass, as you can see there, with this strong rotation. Started on Cape San Blas, kind of worked right along the coastline, and then now is just offshore on the south side of Indian Pass there. May have worked right over Indian Pass. Not getting any kind of reports. Still have the local storm reports up, so not getting any kind of reports of any issues out there, but certainly the possibility. Certainly chime in, Amelia, if you get any damage reports or any kind of power failures or anything coming from Gulf County.
From the National Weather Service here. We do not have any reports of hail within this system as it makes its way towards Franklin County, so that's good. But let's talk about the power outages. As of right now, I'm checking right now to see if there's any power outages, which definitely is possible, especially with these wind gusts upwards of 50, 60 miles per hour within this cell. Not right now. We're good to go as far as power outages, so you should be able to continue your coverage with us here, keeping up to date with us on all platforms, both on air and online, and of course on our Storm Track 13 app. Quick download, it's easy to use, and we of course push out all of the notifications as we get them. So Ross, as of right now, the National Weather Service, the most recent update, still a tornado warning in effect until 10:30 here. No reports of any hail damage. We're just still seeing the system hold on. This is really the only one that's been holding its circulation, for really the only warned system that's been holding close to the coastline there. So it could potentially lift and kind of break up like we've been seeing the past few ones do this morning. We'll just continue to watch this thing for the next 6 minutes or so on its path close to Apalachicola down the line. Could potentially cause some problems for you down there. So now is the time to start to prepare. If you are in its path, you need to get to your safe space, and that is an interior room. specifically a bathroom, a closet, any of those things. So it's just circulating right around Indian Pass is where it's going over. It's on its path towards the north to northeast Odana, 11 Mile, you're next, Tilton on the back end, 2 Mile as well. This thing looks like it's really just going to ride the coastline here, folks. So circulation really not looking to weaken as far as right now. It's still just offshore, close to Indian Pass, and it's going to try to make its way inland for us within the next few minutes. So that's why we're keeping a close eye on any reports from the National Weather Service of any damage, any debris spinning up. That could be a sure sign that it has made its way to land there. But still, just a waterspout right now, lots of circulation going on. It's still holding on. Not really looking like it's going to be doing much movement right now. Ross has kind of just been sitting on the coastline really for the last 30 minutes. Hasn't seen too much movement there, but a whole lot of wind gusts and a lot of torrential downpours right within that area, probably causing quite a bit of concern and some problems there.
Yeah, certainly they shaved down the warning here. So from Indian Pass, Odina, I don't know how you said that. How did you say that? How did you
Odana?
Say it? Odana?
Yeah.
I don't know how you say it.
Yeah.
11 Mile and then Tilton in this warning. But you can see where the rotation is strongest now is back offshore once again. So this thing has somehow or another kind of stayed right offshore, working south and then now almost due east, basically where this has worked. So this has kind of stayed just offshore, which is nice. So we probably have some broad rotation aloft, and we're occasionally getting some kind of funnel or waterspout to work down to the land. But you can see a significant waterspout developing once again on the south side of St. Vincent Island here, the south side of Cape San Blas. So right where we're getting the couplet here, that's probably where we do have a waterspout once again. I say waterspout instead of tornado. We could have a tornado. There could be a tornado underneath that, but this is kind of a mix between land and water here, so we'll call it both. We'll just call it cyclonic spin. Certainly significant rotation on the south side of that warning. On the north side now of St. Vincent Island, right on the north shore, as they were saying in the update there of where this is going to end up going. So looks likely that it is staying just offshore out over the water, but significant rotation nonetheless, and possible waterspout there. Certainly, if you have the ability to see this, we would love to see it. If you can do so safely, I kind of doubt it, because I highly doubt you're going to be able to see it at all, because it is right in the middle of the rain. So chances are, if you're seeing this, it's probably right on top of you, so not a good thing. And again, this is on the north side of the St. Vincent Island there, which is actually out over the water and unpopulated. This is a nature preserve island, and that's going to be moving south side of Gulf County out toward Apalachicola. They did just put a new tornado warning out until 11 a.m. Central Time. It is for this rotation that does include Apalachicola. So this is for that same rotation here, working across the 11 Mile, the Tilton, and now 2 Mile area is where this is eventually headed toward. So slowly working along with this rotation, these tornado warnings, where the tornado potentially started out as a waterspout approaching Cape San Blas and kind of rode the coast or riding the coast from that point forward. So if you put this in motion, you can kind of see that. We'll even go over, let's just go over to our shear swath and pause that, and we'll be able to see exactly where we've got the rotations here. So we initially had the rotation like that, and now we've got the rotation that's done something like that. Kind of cool to see there. So looks like the rotation here stopped before it got on shore, and this rotation may have worked across the south end of Cape San Blas, and it looks like we are starting to get some of that rotation signature, at least, to show up on shore. So potentially there could be damage Indian Pass area going out toward Cape San Blas, where this rotation did at least work right on the shoreline. You can see that right on the edge of the shoreline. Looks like that's exactly where it is continuing as well. So kind of hitting the gap there of Indian Pass. Looks like that is where the shear is the highest and where we are seeing that rotation. So right underneath that couplet, that is where a tornado is possible. We could be talking about a tornado happening on St. Vincent Island now. So could have crossed Cape San Blas, possibly into Gulf County just briefly, and then maybe we could be talking about a tornado now over St. Vincent Island. It'll be working back into the St. Vincent Sound and eventually to the south of Apalachicola. So this may eventually work across St. George Island. So staying on the easterly track as opposed to following that northeast track, which is really the direction that these storms are moving, but sheer helping to pull this off to the east as opposed to allowing it to move off to the north and east. So strong rotation showing up there on radar. This is probably a tornado on St. Vincent. Look at the CC. I'm not seeing any CC dropout or something that looks obvious, but this also could be debris in the air. We go over to our base velocities in Tallahassee, see if we can see CC there. Maybe. Yeah, possibly. This could be a tornado. It could be a tornado on the ground over St. Vincent Island at the moment. Certainly strong rotation would suggest that, and certainly getting a nice couplet there right on the south side of 11 Mile over St. Vincent Island in that warning. So the other warning has now expired. It is 10:30. The other warning has expired. This warning does go until 11 a.m. Central Time. It does include Tilton, Apalachicola, Bay City, as well as 11 Mile and Indian Pass. You are not in the warning. That rotation has now passed you. Where the strongest rotation is occurring is actually over St. Vincent Island. That is where the strongest rotation is occurring at the moment. And going back over to CC here. Again, not seeing anything that's showing significant debris being lofted up into the atmosphere. So that is good news on our end, but still significant rotation overall and the possibility of a tornado there just offshore of Gulf County out over St. Vincent Island, working toward 11 Mile, maybe eventually toward Apalachicola as well, or possibly St. George Island here as well, because this has moved more off to the east as opposed to the east-northeast. So if it follows that same trend, it would end up over St. George Island as opposed to working into Franklin County inland areas. It would stay out over the coastal waters and the islands itself. So plenty of rotation there, strong rotation, and the most significant storm we've seen today, holding on to that lightning. This is where we do have that instability. That's about the only place that the instability actually worked ashore. Everywhere else, the instability basically was the coastline or offshore. As you can see, where we've had waterspouts and funnels reported today have all been coastal areas. All of the warnings have basically been Franklin County, Gulf County, or Walton County at this point. Seems like it's been the same rotation bands or same little feeders that we've been following here as they've worked across. And typical when you're talking about feeder bands here, but still significant rotation showing up here on our base velocities. That means that a tornado or waterspout, again, at this point is probable just to the south of 11 Mile on the way between Indian Pass and Apalachicola. So probable waterspout or tornado offshore there in St. Vincent. You got any new information over there, Amelia? Maybe power outages or damage reports? Anything that we may be coming in to get some new information on this storm?
So as of right now, Ross, still looking good as far as power outages go. There's no reports of any significant power outages in the area. So good news there, but that's definitely possible, especially with the wind speeds. Ross, can you go ahead and pixelate those wind speeds for us so we can start to look at the rotation there and what it's producing? Of course, this is a waterspout that's just been circulating just around the coastline here, folks. And this has been really the most significant rotation, the most significant cell we've seen all day. So don't let this surprise you, and don't let this this trend make you think less of this system here, because overall this morning we've been seeing those systems spin up real quick and then they kind of broaden and weaken for us as they come ashore. This is not the case with this one. This is the one that's been holding on tightly for us, and it's still well organized. We still have the rotation. 53 mile per hour winds within that cell is what we're looking at just offshore there. So, power outages can be likely. Look on the front end, 62 miles within that cell, 70 mile wind wind gusts, all right? That's 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts within that small cell there. That's where Ross is pointing out, okay? So it's just offshore, and then on the frontal end, it's about 62-mile-per-hour winds. So with that added together, Ross, my math is terrible, but it's over 100-mile-per-hour winds within this cell continuing to rotate for us. So again, this is the only one that's really held its organization and just kind of circled around the coastline for us. So it's teasing us a bit, but Indian Pass, you had it first. Now it's continuing on its path towards the north to northeast, looking like Apalachicola, Mexico Beach, the coastal waters. You guys are going to continue on its path with this. Let's go ahead and look at the next path. Who's going to get it next so you guys can go to your safe space. With that being said, that goes to 11 Mile at 10:36, 9 Mile at 10:38, Tilton at 10:43, and we'll pull that back up really quick there. Bay City at 10:51, and Beverly at 11:04. Okay, so guys, this is going to continue to be a coastal system just rotating right along the coastline, still looking like it is a water spout, but a lot of rainfall, and we just talked about the wind speeds within that. As of right now, still no reports of any hail, so that's great, and no reports of any debris flying. So this still seems to be working its way offshore, just barely reaching the coastline at State Highway 30, 11 Mile, 9 Mile, excuse me. You guys need to be seeking shelter right now, okay, folks? 70-mile-per-hour winds, that is the biggest threat here, which means, you know, you need to be in your interior. 70-mile winds could definitely put down some tree limbs. Even some power lines could be a concern as well. So this is significant, folks, even though it is still looking like it's a little bit offshore coastal areas. That doesn't mean you're in the clear, especially on its path towards Apalachicola. You guys need to really focus on the system because this is the only one that has held its rotation for this amount of time, folks. As it's kind of come closer to shore, all of these cells have lifted, weakened, and just kind of dissipated for us on its path. So most of these warnings haven't lasted very long, but this one seems like we've been on air with it for, about 45 minutes or so. So it's holding on. The rotation is there. The velocity is there. So when we talk about velocity, that's just the general rotation of this system that's giving it energy, that's helping the rotation, that's helping the updraft to keep this thing alive here. 64-mile-per-hour winds is what we're looking at right now within this circulation. A lot of lightning going out there as well, so it's a little bit of a lightning show, which hasn't been the case within many of these cells for today here. So again, just off the coast there, 11 Mile, 9 Mile, Tilton, 2 Mile, all the way up to Apalachicola here within the next 30 minutes. You guys are all going to be impacted with this. Now, the biggest question is this thing going to come to shore and lift and kind of dissipate like the rest of these systems have throughout the day? But as of right now, it's still holding on to the coastline. It's holding its circulation, which means the form of this is still there, all right, folks? So the rotation is what we're looking at. Still a whole lot of lightning on its path towards Apalachicola. So this is the only cell that we've really kind of kept attention to, I guess we should say, on its path. But let's again get the timing out there, Ross, because I want to talk about where people need to go and at what time they need to be there, because this thing is just kind of riding the coastline. So you're kind of thinking, oh, it's not going to hit me. Well, that could not be the case. It could make its way inland, hit some of that unstable air, and continue to increase this thing along. So with that being said, 11 Mile, again, you're in the path at 10:39, 9 Mile at 10:41. So just 2 minutes later, this thing is moving rather quickly. Tilton at 10:46. Franklin at 10:52, Bay City at 10:53, and Beverly at 11:06. Now, I say it's moving quickly, but it's really just kind of been meandering around the coastline for the last 45 minutes or so. So it's kind of just playing with us right now. But the rotation holds, the circulation is still there, and by this point, we would expect things to kind of broaden. Looks like it might be, but the wind shear is rather significant in this area. That helps the updraft, that helps the energy of this system to continue it on its path. So it's still offshore. This is the circular line that Ross is showing. That's that circulation on both ends, just south of 11 Mile, State Highway 30. So if you are in this area, please take it seriously. Take shelter now, because the system is just really hanging out for us. And it does look like that rotation has lifted just to the northwest slightly, Ross. You seeing that closer towards 11 Mile might have been reaching shoreline by now.
Yeah, it does appear that we have seen a broadening of this rotation for the one that was working toward Gulf County on the south side. Looks like a new rotation has developed on the west side of St. George Island. We do have a new tornado warning. Now that too goes until 11 a.m. Central Daylight Time for St. George Island for this rotation that has developed to the south of the other rotation. So kind of par for the course here. As rotation tries to work on shore, it starts to broaden and dissipate, and the next rotation offshore starts to strengthen. And that's exactly what we've got going on here as well. So looking at that 11 mile, that area of rotation, it could be lifting, it could be dissipating, kind of hard to tell based on kind of in between radars here. Overall, certainly very heavy rain, just very, very heavy rain overall working out there, and still a couplet overall. Could see broad rotation happening here. That is a possibility. So somewhere in here there could be a tornado or a waterspout, and it looks likely that we've got one down here as well. So appears that we have kind of lost or broadened some of the rotation out of the storm on the Gulf County side and brought in some rotation for the one out towards St. George Island. Again, that does go until 11 a.m. Central Time, St. George Island, and then we do have the tornado warning also for Franklin County that goes until 11 a.m. Central Time. Those are two different warnings. One is for the southwestern portions of St. George Island. The other one is for Gulf County and the extreme southwestern portions of Franklin County, where it does look like we are starting to at least see this rotation broaden out and start to dissipate a little bit. So we've got the winds starting to show up there. Still seeing this rotation get a little bit closer to shore. This will be out over the water, and where we got the rotation happening here, still out over the water as well. Maybe this one also can do the little pivot dance for us and stay offshore as the other one did that little pivot for us as well. So hopefully we can kind of do the same thing, because you can see the shear markers here highlighting basically stopping as they've worked to the coast. So that's exactly what we've got going on there too. So maybe we can get this little dance to go around it. That would be great if we didn't get this storm to work over on shore. But if you are on the southwestern portion of St. George Island, that's Leisurely Lane, which is the road that goes east-west across the entire island. If you're on the southwestern portion of that island, you need to be in your shelter, lowest level of your home. Same problem with Cape San Blas. Most of the sheltering out there, most of the homes are elevated, which means interior room, lowest level. That's probably going to be a bathroom. That's where you want to be. Most interior room out there on St. George Island. Broad rotation across Gulf County, but it does look likely that may be weakening at this point in time. We may be seeing that starting to go away. So that rotation certainly has broadened overall, and then you can see this rotation is starting to tighten. So starting to see those two pieces of energy get closer together, and we're starting to see these get further away. That's what we mean when we say tightened or broadened. The couplets literally tighten, meaning the pieces, the colors get closer together, and when they start getting further apart, that just means that rotation is starting to get further apart as well. Good indication of rotation and tight rotation is also lightning, especially around the rotation, because rotation itself can add friction to the atmosphere and create that lightning. So typically, whenever we do have a tornado, we have it on the ground, it's creating some kind of friction. We usually get an abundance of lightning to start showing up, and that's what we saw with the storm working toward Cape San Blas, and now we're seeing that with this rotation that is showing up off on the southwest side of St. George Island. Again, that goes until 11 Central Daylight Time. Same thing for the tornado warning on the southwestern side of Franklin County. Now, if you're in Indian Pass, you're in the clear. Port St. Joe, you're in the clear. Highland View, you're in the clear. If you're in Bay County, you are fine. It has actually mostly gone around you. The only issues we have out there at the moment is in Franklin County, which would be the southwestern portions of St. George Island, as well as the western portions of Franklin County, including Apalachicola, where we do have two areas of rotation basically embedded in this main feeder band that are working into Franklin County. So that is the worst of the weather that we do have left. As we look across the rest of the area, you can see there are still pop-up storms happening on the western side. We're going to see scattered showers and storms sticking with us through the afternoon, but we should see the environment weaken. For the most part, we have seen that. Unfortunately, we do still have this strong banding and convergence happening that are working across the into Franklin County and across the Forgotten Coastline into the Bend, and that's where the severe weather is still holding on. If we get some sunshine this afternoon, we could see some instability, but the threat for tornadoes is probably going to lessen and will probably stay very low as we go into the day tomorrow as well. Even as we continue to pop up these showers and storms, we're just going to see the dynamics start to lessen. That doesn't mean a tornado isn't possible. It just means the dynamics will be less overall. So zooming back in here, speaking exactly of that, you can actually see a thunderstorm or a shower that is rotating across Holmes County there. It is a weak shower, but it is rotating for sure. Just looking at its representation at the moment. So right now, we've got a tornado warning for Franklin County, including Apalachicola. That is the far western portions of Franklin County, southwestern portions of St. George Island, where we do have a waterspout offshore. There's the potential for maybe 2 areas of rotation there. Looks like the northern area of rotation starting to weaken somewhat. Going to go over to the Tallahassee radar and pause this once again. You can still see there is still rotation out there on this warning that is around the Tilton area. That rotation mostly offshore or just right close to shore, but there is still some broad rotation there. And thankfully, looking at the rotation around St. George Island as well, also looking somewhat broad. There is still significant rotation. You can see the 2 areas we're talking about here still rotating, but they do look more broad than they did just a few minutes ago. So maybe we're seeing this starting to give up the ghost, so to speak, as well. Hopefully that trend does continue. You got any new information over there for me, Amelia?
Yeah, absolutely. So we just talked about how Port St. Joe is in the clear, but let me tell you, this system, this cell that is in the tornado warning here, it's producing a lot of rainfall, folks. Highway 98 in Port St. Joe, it just passed through there, has about a foot of water on it. That's from the National Weather Service, from one of our weather spotters. That's just in the city limits. So if you are in Port St. Joe or within the area that the storm just passed through, a whole lot of rainfall has just fallen there. So flash flooding, definitely a possibility. Make sure you are giving yourself plenty of time. Watch out on the roadways, because this thing, it's rotating, it's holding together, and it is not looking like it's going to be weakening anytime soon as far as what's going on in the path of this thing. So it's producing a whole lot of rainfall. Wind speeds, Ross, can we take a look at that right now? We haven't talked about the wind speeds in a minute, but this thing is rotating, producing the wind speeds that are rather significant. We did have reports of upwards of 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts that do have the possibility of some power outages, maybe even some down tree limbs. So let's take a look, as well as our power outages, to make sure that we are still in the clear here. It does look like there might be some power outages just north of our area in Okaloosa. We're going to give you an update on that. But again, this system that just passed through St. Joe produced quite a bit of rainfall, a lot of wind gusts, and quite a bit of lightning as well here. Look at this, 58 mile per hour winds. You're going to be thankful it's not 98 mile per hour winds, but it's definitely significant here as this thing just holds organization and really not showing too many signs of weakening as far as on the coastline here. 58 to 63 mile per hour wind. That's inland, closer towards Apalachicola. So Apalachicola, you are now in the path of this storm and need to be taking shelter right now, because we are seeing some broadening of the circulation. Ross, if you want to show that as well as the tracks of where it's going, because we have some circulation on the back end that's just offshore right now. So we're watching these 2 areas rather closely. The second one, I don't believe has been warned as of yet, could potentially do so, especially with that organization there. It's looking like it's going to become well organized here in the next few minutes as it does continue on that circulation path. Let's zoom on in so we can show you guys exactly where it's headed and when you need to be taking shelter, folks. Okay, it's been kind of just teasing us, just been circling around the coastline. And, you know, the funny thing is with these systems, early this morning, They hit the coastline, they lifted, they dissipated, they weakened. That's not really been the case with this one system out ahead, close to 11 Mile right now and on its path towards the north. So that being said, Franklin 1056, your next 2 mile, we've been talking about you folks, 1056 as well. So you're only about 7 minutes of being right in the heart of this thing. You need to be taking shelter now. Make sure you're taking all of the essentials with you as well. Make sure you have your cell phone with your notifications on. If you haven't downloaded that Storm Track 13 app yet, it's an easy, quick download. It's free, easy to use. Just make sure you have your notifications on because we'll continue to push out alerts as we get them. So again, 2 mile at 1056 just within the next few minutes here. Bay City, you're going to be next on the list at 1059. Apalachicola, we've been talking about you folks, how you are definitely in the path, especially with that flash flood warning there. You already have a lot of water in that area, and with this system producing torrential downpours, flooding, flash flooding is definitely going to continue in your area there. Magnolia Bluffs 1115, it's going to continue to East Point at 1119, Creels at 1124, Greenpoint 1129, and we're thinking this thing should expire by this point, but High Bluff you'll be at 1136. So we're continuing to monitor these two little systems, these two cells that do have some rotation. Looks like this one here just to the eastern side of 11 Mile might have been broadening a little bit, as well as the one beneath it. It looks like it's broadened as well. So it could be weakening as it does make its way inland, and it could be hitting that updraft and just weakening, dissipating for us. Ross, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, these definitely look much more broad than they did. We still have some rotation. I mean, you could pick out little points here. I mean, they're definitely broad, but I mean, there's definitely still some rotation here, and then you can see it's broad as you get closer up toward 11 Mile where the other tornado warning is. But lots of lightning still ongoing, so the possibility is certainly there. As we check out the shear rates here, again, highlighting that it's broad. The rotation certainly not tight at this point in time. Definitely still rotation. In fact, it kind of looks like the two pieces of rotation may be trying to merge together or so. So more or less, this is just a strong thunderstorm at this point in time. I don't necessarily think there is a tornado occurring at the current moment across either of these storms, but there is rotation, broad rotation, so these storms are capable of producing a tornado. They are also capable of producing very heavy rain. We do have a flash flood warning for that area that goes until 1 p.m. We've seen rainfall over 7-8 inches of rain in that area, so you certainly are seeing roads covered with water. You never want to drive across a flooded roadway. Remember the saying, turn around, don't drown. It's a simple saying. It's easy to remember. You can't drown if you don't drive through the water. So don't drive through the waters. It's a completely avoidable death when it comes to flash flooding and driving through floodwaters. You don't have to do it. Don't do it. Certainly, tornado warning continuing again till 11 a.m. Central Daylight Time for Franklin County. We have two thunderstorms out there, both capable of producing tornadoes, both producing very broad rotation. There's a little bit tighter rotation on the very south end of St. George Island here. That's a little bit tighter overall, but still it's still pretty broad as well. Same thing here on 11 Mile. That's out over shore, but it too could be producing a waterspout. So south of Tilton there, moving toward 2 Mile, Apalachicola. I would go ahead and get in my shelter just in case this decides to tighten back up and produce. If I was on Hammock Road in the Franklin area of Franklin County, Bay City area of Franklin County, State Highway 38, Bay City Road, 25th Avenue, Brownsville Road, which this is all downtown Apalachicola, I would be getting in shelter. State Highway 30, going toward downtown Apalachicola, I would be in shelter. For the very least, you've got a significant thunderstorm working over the top of you with some embedded rotation and the possibility of a tornado. So certainly seeking shelter there, staying in shelter till that storm passes. That storm has passed 11 Mile, Indian Pass, and Cape San Blas, Port St. Joe, as well as Mexico Beach. You can see the main feeder band here has pretty much moved through the entirety of the area. So as we get into the afternoon, we should see the threat lessen overall, but we will still be talking about pop-up showers and storms. As you'll note, we do still have the tornado watch until 1 p.m. across the area, with that banding even filling in back across our west, but that is far less significant storms as far as strength and intensity goes compared to what we have going on in Franklin County currently with the tornado warning over St. George Island, as well as the tornado warning for Apalachicola as well. So both locations should be in shelter. Both locations are dealing with a significant thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado. At this moment in time, I wouldn't be able to highlight exactly where a tornado is occurring because we have broad rotation with both, but there is at least the possibility of a tornado or waterspout occurring under either one of these areas of rotation, which now kind of just looks like one big broad area of rotation overall. So it's possible that this is just not producing anymore, or we've finally seen this rotation starting to lessen enough that this is broadened out. And so hopefully that's a trend that does continue, and we can start to get these warnings to expire instead of continuing to warn down the road. It does look like this is relatively broad and weak, but there are still two distinct areas of rotation on the radar here. Again, working toward Apalachicola, where you can see that skit there, as well as the area just on the south side of St. George Island. Those are the two areas of rotation. If there is a waterspout, if there is a tornado, that's where they are occurring. And regardless, these are producing very heavy rainfall, likely producing flash flooding. The flash flood warning is in effect until 1 p.m. for those areas of Gulf, Liberty, and Franklin counties where we've picked up greater than 8 inches of rain in some locations. I mean, just picking up some of the pixel queries here, and it's quite impressive. Some spots even approaching a foot of rain in Apalachicola, thanks to this banding that has basically been sitting stationary to the south of the Forgotten Coastline over the last couple of days. We've really seen this banding staying off the coast, now working on the coast and really delivering on the rainfall across the Forgotten Coastline. But again, going back to the velocities here just to see if we've gotten anything to tighten up, and still looking at what is relatively broad rotation, but significant enough that it could produce a waterspout or a tornado. Again, working toward Apalachicola on the southwestern sides of St. George Island, mostly offshore, which is good news, is that majority of our issues today have been offshore. You can see the wind reports from earlier with a tornado warning there, 40, 41 mile per hour winds recorded. We had a funnel cloud reported over Carabel earlier, as well as several funnels reported out into Walton County. Water spouts reported over the Choctawhatchee Bay with tornado warnings there as well. And thankfully, we haven't seen a whole lot of reports of damage or power outages across the area, and just getting word of nuisance flooding, really just roads that are dealing with the flooding. So it could be worse. Certainly dealing with rotating thunderstorms, never fun. Dealing with thunderstorms producing heavy rain, never fun. And even the possibility of a thunderstorm producing a tornado, never fun. And it does look like we have a new tornado warning now for these thunderstorms as they are continuing off to the east-northeast. This tornado warning is for Franklin County. It is for this thunderstorm itself in these areas of rotation. The possibility of a tornado is there. So at 11:56, a thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado located near Apalachicola, moving to the northeast at 25 miles an hour. Radar indicated rotation. It's a dangerous storm, and it could produce a tornado. So they are saying exactly what I have been saying, a dangerous storm that is possible of producing a tornado. No, I do not think that a tornado is occurring at the moment underneath this storm, but certainly has the capability of producing one. A strong, significant tornado or storm here working off to the north and east again at about let me go back, 25 miles per hour. So going back to the rotations here, where we do have more of a significant rotation now back over the southwestern portions of St. George Island. That rotation here, again, no roads out this way. This is actually State Park on the south side and the north side of the island itself. We could be talking about a waterspout there just on the north side of the island. This warning will go until 11:30 Central Daylight Time. Again, broad rotation, 2 areas of rotation, one working toward Apalachicola, one working on the southwestern portions of St. George Island. So the rotation down here in a more favorable spot for the thunderstorm, kind of an embedded rotation back here also in a favorable spot of where you would expect it to be as well, but a little bit weaker, not as great of an environment for this to develop. So that rotation looking weaker. That's good news for those that are in shelter in Apalachicola or the 2-mile area. Those out on St. George Island certainly would stay in shelter as that rotation is approaching you. In fact, this will probably work across and up toward East Point. So that rotation, if I had to guess, probably toward the road that goes out toward the island, although that does look like it's doing the same thing that the other one did, doesn't it, Amelia? Looks like we saw that just dive off to the south there on the latest frame update. So possibly this will go to the south of St. George Island. Hopefully that would be great if this worked offshore and then stayed offshore as well. But we do have rotation to the southwest of Apalachicola and Bay City. This is moving again off to the north and east at 25 miles an hour. If you're in Apalachicola, you need to be in your shelter. Lowest level of your home, most interior room, that's closet or bathroom. Many walls between you and the outside as possible. You're not going to be able to see this tornado. It is embedded in rain. There's heavy, heavy rain falling. That's the other issue here, along with frequent lightning, flash flooding. So very heavy rainfall occurring. Possibility of a waterspout around St. George Island is there as well. A couple of areas of rotation, again, still showing up here on Tallahassee's radar, which is those rotations just to the west of Apalachicola now, as well as the rotation on the southwest side of St. George Island. So they have expired the other 2 tornado warnings and now have just the 1 tornado warning that does encapsulate both of the areas of rotation that we are watching right now out of this significant storm. And it is the only significant storm out there. There is heavy rain falling in other locations, certainly nasty weather across Liberty County and the rest of Franklin County, but the significant weather, whereas the possibility of a tornado or damaging wind gusts is definitely around Apalachicola and on the southwest side of St. George Island right now. Again, moving off to the north and east at 25 miles per hour. This banding should work out of here as we go into the afternoon. We should see the tornado threat lessen. This tornado warning going until 11:30. Amelia?
Yeah, absolutely. So this tornado warning, as he just mentioned, it has been extended until 10:30. Now, this just in from the National Weather Service. Wind at the Apalachicola Airport just shifted from east to northwest, so the northern tornado warning circulation is now east of the longitude there. So again, we're still watching these 2 systems, these 2 cells still rotating, but the first one ahead close to Apalachicola and Bay City looks like it's broadening, looks like it might be weakening a bit, so that's great news. So we're just kind of focusing on the one to the south there, and that still has a good rotation and just good form there, so it's going to continue on its path. This is still until 11:30, but let's kind of zoom out for folks, Ross. The newscast just did start at 11 a.m., so folks probably now just tuning in. We want to show you what we're looking at. So we have 2 different squall lines kind of just bordering our area here, one that just passed Port St. Joe that did produce almost a foot of rainfall on the highways there. So it has a lot of rainfall, torrential downpours within these cells, and it is again producing rainfall significantly closer towards the coastline there. So you need to be watchful, mindful on the roadways if you are within its path, because we do have those torrential downpours, as well as we had the flood warning, and that's still in effect until 1 p.m. And that's exactly where the system is headed, into Apalachicola. So we just zoomed out, and that's just the feeder bands here, folks. So it did kind of hold stability on land early this morning, but that instability making way inland here, and that's what's bringing a lot of this rotation and a lot of these severe storms that we have been picking up on. So we're taking a look at its path. We'll go ahead and show you where it's going next so you can get to your safe space. You see that circulation there on this first system It's broadening. The second one as well here. It looks like both might be broadening up a little bit, but these are the two areas we're watching, moving towards the north to northeast, right now riding the coastline here. So these are the areas coming next. 2 Mile, you're at 11:04 right now exactly. You need to be in your shelter. If you are not, go there now. Apalachicola, we've been talking about you folks already. A whole lot of rainfall in your area. Close to a foot has been reported in Apalachicola, so you're only going to get more rainfall as well as the gusting winds. We've had reports of nearly 60-mile-per-hour winds within this rotation here. So Apalachicola, you are next at 11:08. Magnolia Bluffs, at 11:20, East Point at 11:23, Creels at 11:27, and then we'll go to Green Points there at 11:32. That is when we are expecting for this system to expire as far as the warning goes. But we're going to continue to give you all of the updates as we continue to track this thing, Ross. Let's take a look at the rotation, the velocity of this thing. Still good organization there. Looks like it's broadening slightly. 45-mile-per-hour wind speeds just to the east of that within the cell, right around 14-mile-per-hour winds. So not quite as significant wind speeds as some of the other cells that we've been seeing that did go warned as far as tornado warnings today. Now, right within the system, if you circle that there, yeah, right, this is the rotation we're looking at. So on the back end, 49 miles per hour, on the front end, 9 miles per hour, which means we're looking at close to 50-mile-per-hour winds within this circulation. But the broadening of the circulation is a great thing, folks. It means it's weakening, and it's not quite as tight as far as that circulation as earlier. So this thing could be weakening. That's the same event that we've been seeing with all of these warned systems. It kind of hits the coastline, hits land, and it just kind of disappears for us, and it weakens significantly. So that's what we're kind of looking at. But the next few hours, we're just going to continue to see lots of different systems pulling in from these outer bands from Francine that has now been downgraded to our tropical depression as it continues inland. But all right, let's take a look at the the wind speeds here, Ross, if you can point that out, as well as let's take a look at actually the rain amounts, if there's some reports of that. Ross is kind of manipulating the radar for me as we're jumping back and forth onto things here. So 7.8 inches just north to northwest of Bay City, right south of Bay City. 7.3 inches, 7.8 at East Point. Green Point, you are likely going to be getting hit next there. So let's look at the storm reports. So we have had a lot of storm chasers out there, and they've been putting out some reports from the National Weather Service. So with that being said, we had some water spouts, not only offshore, but we've had a few funnel clouds onshore as well. Those have been the major reports from today. But let me tell you, folks, this is the one system that has just kind of been teasing us. It just continues to get extended for us because the other warnings have just kind of been hitting the shoreline. It's been hitting that updraft and just dissipating for us, just disappearing. That's not the case with this one. It's just been meandering around the coastline and now slowly starting to make its way inland. So it passed St. Joe, again, poured a whole lot of rainfall there, but you're really not going to see this rotation if you're looking outside, which I don't recommend you do. It's just look at the rainfall. Lots of rain wrapped around this system here. And it is making its way towards the northeast. So this, let's look at the base velocity again. The velocity, just so we can see the rotation, folks. That's just going to help the energy, help this system keep spinning and on its path here. Let's take a look. It looks like things are broadening for us, so that's great news. If you could zoom in for that. Yeah, it doesn't look like it's holding together as nearly as well as it was earlier here. But this is by 2 Mile and Apalachicola here, headed towards East Point and Green Point. So it is kind of riding the coastline. And it was a water spout earlier. We've had plenty of reports of water spouts, but they've just been kind of disappearing as they make their way into land. So right now, still within that rotation, 55-mile-per-hour wind gusts, could be seeing some downed tree limbs. That is definitely a big danger out there, as well as some potential for power outages. So as you're making your way to your safe place, grab your cell phones, put your notifications on, download that Storm Track 13 app. It's an easy, free download, and turn on those notifications so we can give you all of the updates as we get them in. Ross?
Yeah, as you were just mentioning, this is definitely broadening out for us. That's certainly looking good. We've been talking about that for a while, seeing a little more of a broad structure. Looks like these two pieces of energy, these two areas have been rotating, maybe kind of combining together. That's helping to see this broaden out a little bit. They might actually be kind of fighting each other at the moment, which is good news. That looks likely that we do not have any area of significant rotation at the moment. So I would say at the moment, it's probable that we do not have a water spout at the current moment, but there's still some gusty winds out of this storm and prolific lightning. I mean, this thunderstorm is just absolutely laying down the lightning strikes. Overall, it is really, really impressive here. If we pull up the lightning and let you see what's going on, we're getting tons of lightning out of that thunderstorm alone. That's working between Apalachicola and Carabel at this point in time. That is along that feeder band. It is producing tremendous rainfall as well. Our rainfall rates working way up there, where we're talking about the precipitation rate 6-7 inches per hour possible. 7.5 inches per hour rainfall rate currently falling over Apalachicola. So this is why those rain totals have been adding up so fast, is because we are talking about very, very heavy rainfall that is falling currently over this tornado-warned storm and has fallen over a large portion of the Forgotten Coastline, Port St. Joe, Apalachicola, Carabel, all seeing areas over 2 inches of rain, most places picking up over 4 inches of rain there. And even offshore where these thunderstorms were, how about 14 inches of rain showing up? Even some locations right around Apalachicola here, zooming in, showing close to 1 foot of rain in the last 24 hours. So it certainly has been absolutely pouring. Going back to the base velocities here again, seeing this weakening once again, but now transferring the energy back offshore. So another water spout potentially on the south side of St. George Island now. So that rotation to the south of Apalachicola, that has completely broadened out, and we've now got a new piece of rotation starting to develop. So as we go to reflectivity here and we look at the thunderstorm, so parent thunderstorm, first one, parent thunderstorm, second one, combining these two together, and we're getting our new rotation down here, so right where you would expect it to. That means that this is probably going to be heading in that direction. So on the south side of St. George Island, still want to stay in shelter. That means if you are in the populated area, the center portion of St. George Island, I would stay in shelter as a water spout looks like it is developing just offshore on the south side. And these storms are moving east, northeast. So we'll likely see that water spout hug the coastline, much like we did with the water spout that worked along Cape San Blas. This one could potentially work right along the coastline of St. George Island. As you can see, that rotation showing up there. So that's where the significant rotation is now. The rotation under the warning actually very, very broad and insignificant at this point. So I would say just a nasty thunderstorm out of that storm at this moment in time. Still some strong wind gusts out there. If you look at the pixel queries, 50 mile per hour, not out of the question into East Point, Green Point, as well as going further down toward Carabel. Those areas could see wind gusts as high as 40 or 50 miles an hour. Most likely, we're just talking about some really heavy rain and lightning working through with some gusty conditions. The rotation, once again, back offshore now to the south side of St. George Island there. And again, this warning does go until 11:30. So we've got about another 20 minutes of this warning or so. And we're talking about very broad rotation with a significant thunderstorm that is at least capable of producing a tornado. It looks like these two cells have now merged, and it does look like the rotation is becoming dominant down here around St. George Island. So I would bet that we'll probably see this warning drop. We may see a new warning for St. George Island come out here in a few minutes for the rotation that is now offshore that will be working towards the coastline as we go through the next hour or so. Again, this banding just moving from west to east. This is exactly what we were talking about over the last couple of days, is dealing with this main feeder band working through the area thanks as a result to Francine. Francine now a tropical depression in Mississippi. So thankfully, that system has weakened pretty rapidly. But for us, it is the banding still rotating through. And even after we get rid of this main feeder band, we still will have pop-up showers and even the possibility of a thunderstorm, even the possibility of a tornado, albeit that risk is much, much less, but there is that possibility. So certainly want to keep our guard up as we go through the rest of this afternoon. The greatest risk is through 1 o'clock, which is why we do have that watch out until 1 o'clock. Again, tornado warning does go until 11:30 in Franklin County. The rotation with that storm has broadened enough for me to be not talking about that storm, but overall the rotation where it's gotten significant is now offshore of St. George Island. We could be seeing a waterspout there. Based on the motion of this, that would be excellent news too, because it looks like this may actually go that way, away from St. George Island. So possibly we could be talking about these waterspouts and the endless circulation of waterspouts coming to an end as this moves away, hopefully.
Yeah, exactly. What you're seeing, the National Weather Service just put out, the northern circulation is heading east now across Apalachicola Bay. It appears to be weakening. The southern circulation is now off the southern shore of St. George Island, heading east. For St. George, the middle and eastern end of the island will need to watch that northern circulation as it comes across the bay, especially if it re-strengthens. So you're seeing exactly what's going on, Ross. So that was the most recent update from the National Weather Service.
Yeah, so what they're saying is this rotation up here, where you still have this broad rotation showing up, this rotation is going to travel like that across St. George Island. This rotation here is going to continue to travel like that. So this is going to move away from St. George Island. The rotation that's in between Apalachicola and St. George Island is actually going to move across the Bridge Road there, as well as the central and northern portions of the county. If that were to tighten up, that could warrant a tornado warning as well. Right now, that is weak and broad rotation, but it was at one point in time significant, strong rotation. It is now just 40 mile per hour gate-to-gate shear. So that's just the rotation that's happening. And in the atmosphere, we've got about 60 miles per hour. So typically 80 is what gets a warning going. Typically 75 to 80 is usually when we'll see a tornado warning issued. So this would be below that criteria. The other rotation is now south of St. George Island. So right now, I would not think that there is an imminent danger of a tornado anywhere, with exception to if we got this rotation to retighten as it moved across St. George Island. That would be the only concern here, as this storm really has transferred its energy back offshore to the south of St. George Island. So overall, what we're talking about is a nasty thunderstorm producing very heavy rainfall, 7+ inches per hour rainfall rates in Franklin County out of that main feeder band, moving off to the east-northeast at about 25 miles per hour. It is a dangerous storm. It is certainly capable of producing a tornado. Right now, it is likely not producing a tornado, but it is capable of doing so. The good news here is, as we're going through our coverage, looking around the rest of the area, it does look like we are seeing a significant downtrend on everything else. So with the exception to this band, which still has to work through the rest of Franklin County, it does look like we will be seeing these severe threat start to significantly downgrade. It doesn't mean that it's going to be over, but it will be much, much weaker as we go through this afternoon and evening hours. And hopefully we don't see any kind of regeneration of instability across the panhandle, because so far, most of that instability has been right along the coastline, and most of it has been ingested into that main feeder band that has been working across the area this morning. So still rotation offshore, but I would say that that is where the most significant part of that storm is. This warning does go for another 15 minutes if they don't cancel it between now and then. There is still broad rotation happening that could work across St. George Island. I guess that's the only reason they're still holding on to this warning, as that rotation is still there. Amelia?
Yeah, absolutely. They're still reporting that the circulation is weakening and heading towards St. George Island, heading east for St. George. The middle and eastern end of the island will need to watch that northern circulation as it comes across the bay, especially if it re-strengthens. But as Ross has been saying, you know, we've been seeing this thing kind of weaken. It doesn't show a whole lot of circulation there. So that's great news. And that's kind of been the trend here. We've been seeing them spin up and then they slowly start to just weaken for us and just dissipate. But within this system, we're still watching for heavy torrential downpours and a whole lot of wind gusts here. So this is the area of significance right between Apalachicola and, yeah, we'll move that box away, Greenpoint as well. So if you are in this area, it still has the potential for producing a tornado, although unlikely right now, but we're still watching this. And just on the back end where Ross is kind of pointing that out, that's our next area of tight circulation, a little bit better than the one ahead in the box of concern, the box of where that tornado warning actually is. So that looks like on the back end of things, just on the coastal side, offshore there, that looks like it's going to be continuing to push offshore. But with that being said, the one that's onshore right now, Ross, let's go ahead and show where it's headed so we can time out that for our viewers there.
It won't pixel query anything because it's moving over the island, so there's no points here.
It's which is great.
It's going that direction.
Yep, which is great news. It's going offshore for us, and it's still weakening. But yeah, I mean, within it, it's still producing quite a bit of rainfall, but no hail has been reported. And I'm going to get us a check on any power outages because within those reports of those wind speeds upwards of 40, 50 mile per hour winds, power outages definitely a possibility. But we are still looking good as far as any reports of damage and power outages. No reports as of right now to report, Ross. So looking good as far as that. The biggest thing we're watching out for is, again, lots of rainfall. We've been seeing upwards of close to 6 inches in just an hour downpouring, especially by Apalachicola. That's where that flash flood warning is. That goes until about 1 p.m. Let's take a look at the current rain reports right now at 8.3 right on Apalachicola, 8.3 at East Point. 11 Mile, you're at 6.1 inches. So we've been seeing significant rainfall with these feeder bands. Bay City at 7.2 inches, Tilton there at just above 8 inches as well. And within this system, we're still seeing quite a bit of lightning. It's been a little bit of a lightning show within this cell, which has not been the case with a lot of our other warned systems. So lots of lightning out there. This system's just been kind of meandering, and it did kind of go within that other rotation. They look like they just kind of combined with it. But this is, as we zoom out, lots of rainfall, torrential rainfall, just specifically coastal Apalachicola and heading towards the north to northeast. But again, that cell that's rotating, that has little bit of rotation left, weakening as it goes offshore for us. And this thing, it's looking to expire in the next 10 minutes. Oh, well, it looks like they're going to continue this tornado warning, Ross. They just put that out at 1 minute ago, that tornado warning with no hail reported, but in Franklin County, it is going to continue that warning. So it looks like they might be seeing some better circulation there, better organization. So producing a tornado is located East Point, moving northeast at 20 miles per hour. Again, no reports of a touchdown. This is just radar indicated as of right now, but flying debris will be dangerous, especially within those areas of some stronger wind gusts. So make sure you are getting to your safe space if you are in the area of concern, that being just to the southeast of Apalachicola, really the coastline heading towards Greenpoint. You need to be getting to your safe space, which means interior area away from the windows. Do not be one of those people that gets out your phone and goes outside, tries to see the system, because you're not going to see it anyway. A lot of rainfall within it, so you won't be able to see any rotation outside. So go to your interior safe space, bring all of the necessities with you, such as water, your cell phone. Again, download that Storm Track 13 app. We're going to continue to give you all of the notifications as we get them in. But yes, that has been extended. We're still watching this thing as that one looks to be expiring at 11:30 now. Ross?
Yeah, I think that was just out of an abundance of caution. They just continued the warning that was there, and they trimmed out the portion that was no longer under the rotation. We still have rotation that is on the south side of St. George Island, but the rotation on the north side is pretty insignificant. There is a ton of lightning out there still, though, so a significant storm. Lightning is a good indication of updraft strength, so that is a good indication that this is a significant storm, and that rotation is just offshore on the south side of St. George Island. But if you put this in motion, the good news here is if you watch that rotation, it is moving away. So it is actually moving in that direction away from St. George Island. So the only rotation we're worried about is that rotation that was up here moving in that direction. So you can see that approaching Apalachicola and now crossing back over that is the area of rotation that they were concerned with. But it does not look likely that that is going to tighten up or that we're going to see any kind of new rotation come out of that. That is on the backside of a cell merger, so really not sure why.
Yeah, I was just going to say I'm not really sure why they extended that, especially with the weakening, the clear weakening of that system and it moving offshore rather quickly. It's moving at 20 miles per hour, so should be well away from us here within the next 10 minutes or so. So yeah, I'm kind of surprised they extended this. They could potentially expire it as it goes offshore and continues to weaken, as it looks like it's going to continue to do so.
Yeah, it looks like we're on the downtrend here with the overall intensity of this band as well. You can see the first feeder band that worked through. That was early this morning. We dealt with that even yesterday. That's now out of the area. This feeder band, you can even see the intensity here, certainly weakening as well. Just not as significant as it was. And then back off to the west. You'll note that the storm's popping up over here, not as deep either. A lot of that has to do with the drier air that is going to be filtering in and undercutting our current conditions that will be ongoing. So looking at the water vapor, that's good imagery showing that dry air that's going to be driving in as we go through the next 2 days or so. So that's good news. That should help limit the potential for severe weather as we go into the afternoon overall, but probably going to see some sunshine breaking out. Some of the area may be already seeing the sunshine breaking out between the scattered showers and storms that are popping up. So you are going to get that. That will at least give the chance of some extra instability for storms this afternoon and evening, especially into the overnights. And then again, as we go to tomorrow afternoon, we could see some pop-ups there as well. But right now, they just left this warning for the leftover rotation crossing St. George Island as we speak. This is getting ready to expire in about 6 minutes. Did they expire it? So they just allowed this to expire. So we're going to go back to programming, which is the news. So we're going to go to break. We'll be back with news here really shortly.